Hi everybody, my name is Jim with Full Moon Adventure Club, and today we're going to be doing a review of this BougeRV 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery that they sent to me for free to review. So what we're going to do is charge it up, then I'm going to put it on a capacity tester to make sure that it's actually delivering all the power that's promised. Then we'll charge it up again and put it through some high power torture tests just to make sure that it can handle some large loads, and we'll go from there. So why don't we get right into it? If you end up being interested in this, there's a link in the description below if you want to check that out. Let's dive in. So as far as what's in the box here, you can see it's pretty simple. We're going to have our user manual, some packing foam, and the battery itself. Nothing else to it. So let's get to testing. So once I charged this completely up with my little charger here, charged it all the way up, now we're going to throw this on the capacity tester. And I originally set this for 1 amp, which is about 13 watts, and let that run. But after about 48 hours, I decided to take that up to 2 amps at 26 watts, so that wouldn't take 100 hours to do the test. Now when we're done, you can see we have 100 amp hours with 1280 watt hours advertised, and what we ended up getting was 102.83 amp hours and 1310.22 watt hours. So it definitely delivered what it promised it would, and we got a little bit over that. So that's a really good test. That took about 66 hours running at 1 to 2 amps, and that was a really successful test. So here's the setup. We're going to be using this 1500 watt air fryer, this BougeRV lithium iron phosphate 100 amp hour battery with their BougeRV 2000 watt 12 volt inverter right there. And we're going to be using all of these displays to let us know exactly how much power we're using. You can see just being plugged in, we're actually using 0.54 watts on that guy. And here's our little inverter remote control, and we're also going to have a timer, and we're going to try and run that through a full cycle at full power for about 15 minutes and just kind of do a torture test on the battery to make sure it can deliver 1500 watts continuous. And yeah, let's see how it goes. So we're going to go ahead and start this guy up. We're going to jack that temperature all the way up, and we're going to set the timer to 15 minutes. We're going to hit start. You can hear that inverter kick on there. We are drawing 1400 watts. We'll start this as well. That should run for about 15 minutes, and we'll see how we do. I did notice throughout the test that the air fryer doesn't actually use 1500 watts continuously. It kind of turns off for a little bit, circulates the air, and then re-engages the heating element. As you're going to see through this time lapse right up here, it's using 1400 watts, and then occasionally it'll go down to 30 watts and circulate the air around and then re-engage and turn back on the heating element. But so it's not a continuous test, but it's still a good test on how well it does running an air fryer. And as we get to the very end of that test, you can see that we used 195 watt hours, so 200 watt hours divided by the 1280 watt hours that the battery has. You could assume by doing the math that you could do an air fryer at a full 15-minute run about 6 times. So that's pretty cool to know. All right, and then we're going to do one more test here because the air fryer did kick on and off, so it wasn't a constant draw. We're going to really try and push it over the top. I haven't charged it. This is directly after the other test. We're going to use this 1500 watt heat gun, and we're going to crank that up, and we're just going to see how long we can get out of that. I'll run it for about 10 or 15 minutes and shut her down if it doesn't shut off itself. And we are going to be pushing the battery over its 100 amp continuous discharge limit. And this is after the air fryer test. So let's just give this guy a little punishment and let her go. So here we go. We are at 0 on our wattage. And I'm going to go ahead and start this timer. And we've already got our little phone doing a time lapse there. And here's our first setting here. And then I'm going to lower the volume on that because it gets really loud and obnoxious, but we're using 774 watts. And now I'm going to go ahead and kick the heat gun onto high. And you can see we jump up to 1,400 watts. So 1,400 watts right there. And we're going to let that test run and see how we do on the time lapse. I will say that this battery has a 100 amp maximum constant discharge rate, which means you can pull 100 amps of power out of it consistently, and we are currently pulling 1400 watts. If you take 1400 watts and divide it by 12 volts, you're going to get 116.6 amps. So we are over discharging this battery by about 16 amps just to give it a little run for its money. But if you're going to be pulling anywhere near the maximum current out of a battery, I would highly recommend getting an additional battery, wiring it in parallel so they can share that load, because pulling the maximum amount out of a battery all the time is really going to shorten its lifespan. So you want to make it a little bit easier on it, split the difference with an extra battery. But it did really well and it made the 10-minute mark absolutely no problem. We used 235 watt hours of power during that test and it did just fine. It did not shut off, and that was a perfect test. Just for fun, I pulled out the old temp gun here. You can see the inverter is about 70 degrees and the battery cable coming off this guy's anywhere between 90 and 100 degrees, which is actually just barely warm to the touch, so that's not a big deal at all. But if you're going to be pulling this kind of power consistently out of a system like this, you're going to have to match your wires, the gauge of your wires, and your battery capacity accordingly to match your power draw needs. Then I just wanted to do a practical application real quick, so I'm going to run this mini fridge off of this. So I charged the battery completely, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and start that. After the battery's fully charged, we'll be able to read exactly how much power the refrigerator uses through the power strip. And so we're going to go ahead and turn everything on and run that test with a time lapse, taking a picture every minute so we can see exactly what's going on. And I will also run the timer so everything's reset. Let's go ahead and turn this guy on. And you can see that refrigerator is using about 63 watts to start up, but once it gets cooled off, it's going to use about 40, 45, and we're going to start that timer and go to the time lapse. Now, I will say that once I slow this down for you here, you'll be able to see exactly how much energy the refrigerator uses. And over a 5-minute span, you can see it kind of kicks up to about 50 watts, and it runs for about 5 minutes, and then the compressor turns off and the cycle repeats. So now we're really going to fast forward fast here. And once we get up here to about 44 hours and 30 minutes, you can see where we've used 371 watt hours, and that's a third of the battery's capacity. And so that was just going to take forever. And so what I decided to do is also add in this little Dometic cooler next to us. But let's make sure the mini fridge is working. It's 45 degrees in there. It's 60 degrees in the basement. It's pretty cold. That's why I say take this test with a grain of salt. But we're going to go ahead and add this other Dometic electric cooler, turn that on to high. You can see that uses about 60 watts whenever it's running, and we will continue the test running both the fridge and the cooler. And so that's going to carry on and keep going and going until we finally get to an end total of 54 hours and 55 minutes. And if we go back to the last frame, you can see that we used 785 watt hours going to the fridge and the cooler, and the rest of that 1280 watt capacity of the battery was eaten up by the inverter, which was on using power in standby for 55 hours. So that's pretty impressive with what you can do with these guys running little appliances, and I thought that was kind of a fun test. Well, there you have it. And in my personal opinion, when it comes to RVing, solar, off-grid stuff, lithium iron phosphate batteries are just my favorite by far compared to lead acid or gel batteries or anything like that. Their weight and their longevity and how much you can really use these things and how long they're going to last you is just my favorite thing in the world. They also have all the standard safety protocols from over voltage, overheating, all that good stuff, and you can get about 4,000 cycles or 10 years of use out of these. And they also have low temperature charging protection, where if it's below freezing, they will not charge to protect the battery. And they also have a heated model for those of us that need to use the battery in sub-freezing temperatures. So highly recommend. As far as this battery is concerned, it delivered on all the tests that I gave it, so it looks like it performs as advertised. If you are interested, there's a link in the description down below, and if anything ever goes wrong with this stuff, I will update the description down below to let you know if anything goes wrong in the long run. But so far, so good. So if you want to check it out, click the link in the description. It'll take you over to Amazon or their website, so you can check it out for yourself and get some more details. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. That really helps me out. And until the next video, my name is Jim with Full Moon Adventure Club. Thanks so much for watching, you guys, and happy camping.